All right, let's just jump right into it because this is a big one. For years, the narrative has been crystal clear. The United States and China are locked in a tech war, and the main weapon for the US? A blockade on advanced microchips. But what if I told you that entire multi-year strategy just got flipped on its head? We're talking about a move so sudden, so dramatic, that it forces us to rethink absolutely everything we thought we knew about this global rivalry. And it really all kicks off with this bombshell of a claim. The source material we're digging into today makes a powerful argument that a recent, huge policy shift isn't just some minor course correction. No, they say it's basically an admission of defeat, a sign that the old strategy of trying to contain China's tech rise has completely backfired. This one claim really sets the stage for a seismic shift in how the US is going to have to play this game. And when you look at the change, it is just so stark. I mean, on one side, you've got the policy that has been the law of the land for years, across 2 different administrations, a hard and fast ban. The goal was simple: slow China down. But on the other side, a sudden, shocking green light for a company like Nvidia to sell its super advanced H20 chips directly to China. This isn't just a small tweak, folks. This is a full-blown 180-degree pivot. So let's really unpack this. How in the world do we get from a hardline ban to what looks like an open door almost overnight? Well, the story here goes way beyond just bits and bytes in technology. It's really about money, it's about global strategy, and most importantly, it's about some serious unintended consequences. And when we talk about money, we are talking about a lot of money. Just let this number sink in for a second. $15 billion. That's the potential market share this one single decision could unlock for Nvidia. An incentive that powerful? Well, it shows you the immense financial pressure that was building behind the scenes to make this policy reversal happen. And this really brings us to the central mystery that we're going to try to solve in this explainer. Why? Why would you suddenly abandon a cornerstone of your foreign policy, something you've been building for years? Was the old plan just not working? Or are there other, maybe even more powerful forces pulling the strings here? According to the source, the answer is, well, it's complicated. The very first clue, and it's a major one, is something our source is calling the Huawei effect. The argument, and it's a fascinating one, is that the US ban was actually having the opposite of its intended effect. It was accidentally creating a stronger, more resilient competitor. So this is really the key idea right here: forced innovation. Think about it. The source argues that by trying to cut Huawei off at the knees, the US basically lit a giant fire under their entire R&D department. When you have your back against the wall, what do? You fight back. And they didn't just survive, they started innovating at a pace that began to make people in Washington get really nervous. And this quote just nails the new logic behind the pivot. The thinking has shifted. It's gone from, let's stop them, to, well, if we can't stop them, we might as well let our own guys compete. The big fear was that the US ban was essentially handing Huawei the entire Chinese market on a silver platter, letting them become a monopoly at home and use those profits to fuel even more innovation. But you know, this Huawei effect is only one piece of the puzzle. The source we're looking at points to some much deeper, much more pragmatic reasons for this whole deal. Reasons that create a direct line between the Pentagon and Wall Street. Our source really boils it down to 2 main drivers. First, you've got pure geopolitics. China has a stranglehold on rare earth minerals, which are absolutely essential for building US military hardware. This deal is seen as a kind of olive branch to make sure that supply chain stays open. And second, it's the money. That $15 billion boost to a giant like Nvidia helps lift the entire US stock market. And that's a huge win for Wall Street. So the argument here is that this was just a classic 2 birds, 1 stone situation. It solves a problem for the Pentagon by securing strategic materials, and it delivers a massive payday to very powerful financial interests. You can see how that kind of deal, one that makes 2 incredibly influential groups happy, would be very hard for any administration to pass up. Okay, so this whole policy reversal, it leads us to a much bigger, much more provocative question that the source poses. We are constantly hearing about this tech race with China, but what if, in the areas that matter most, that race is already over? The source uses data like this to make a point that is, frankly, staggering. Just look at these numbers. Since 2008, China has built almost 50,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. In that exact same time frame, the United States has built 0. The argument here isn't just that the US is behind, it's that in some of these foundational, future-defining technologies, there isn't even a competition to begin with. And a number on a chart is one thing, but this is something people feel. It generates real, visceral frustration, perfectly captured by this viral tweet. It taps into this growing public feeling that America is falling behind in ways you can actually see and touch, ways that affect national pride. And the source argues this isn't just about trains. In electric vehicles, they point to a huge wave of new, innovative Chinese brands, while in the US, it's largely one big player facing challenges. In smartphones, you see China pushing things like trifold phones, while the US market gets more incremental updates. And in energy, it's a story of massive breakthroughs in renewables versus a continued focus on older fossil fuels. So all of this leads to the source's most provocative, most challenging claim of all. When you look across the board at the industries that are going to define the next century, the argument is that the US isn't just losing the race, it's not even on the track. It's a blunt, tough assessment, but one that completely reframes this entire conversation. So if head-to-head competition is a flawed model, maybe even a fantasy, what's the alternative? Well, the source points to a completely different path forward, one that's being championed by the very CEO at the heart of this entire story, Nvidia's Jensen Huang. Huang's approach, as it's presented here, is really all about pragmatism. Step 1, just recognize reality. See China's tech strength for what it is, instead of buying into the scary threat rhetoric. Step 2, shift your focus to finding win-win scenarios. How can we advance American interests while also working together? And step 3, frame it as a victory for American industry. Imagine a world where everyone, China included, is building the future of AI on chips that were designed right here in the US. And really, at the end of the day, the source's main takeaway is this: the whole idea of decoupling, of neatly separating the US and Chinese tech industries, was never going to work. It was always a fantasy. The global supply chains, the talent pools, the massive markets, they are just too interconnected, too tangled up to ever be pulled apart. And this big Nvidia deal is seen as the moment Washington finally admitted that reality. And so that leaves us with this one last big question to chew on. If a zero-sum, all-out tech war isn't actually possible, and some level of cooperation is inevitable, then we have to completely rethink what it means to win. What does winning the future of technology even look like in a world that is this deeply and permanently interconnected? It's a question that could change the whole debate.